Ciao Juventini, and welcome to episode 96 of the All JuveCast. And we're back to our winning ways and celebrating a victory. And I have a very great guest that I'm excited to chat Juve with. Always excited to chat Juve with my man Omer, who's been a guest before. Omer, how are you doing, my friend?
I'm fine. Thank you. I
That's
was
awesome.
actually supposed to be the last guest before we went on the pandemic, and so I didn't know if it would happen and when will it happen. But here we are.
There you go. Yeah.
Super excited.
I've been hanging on to the list of all the guests, and as the matches have resumed, I've reached out to everybody who was set to be on, and it was almost something I was looking forward to throughout that whole thing, was getting back to these post-match podcasts. The first two, even though I love the guests and still have fun, it is always that little bit sweeter when we have a victory to discuss. And more importantly, some goals.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's always a bonus. So thank you for joining me. We're going to break down Juve's match yesterday against Bologna, and we'll talk about just Juve in general as um, never a dull moment and so much going on with Juventus. And that's part of a team of that stature and always being in that spotlight. Naturally, these things will happen. And, lots of news leading up to this one.
And
We
it's also Serie A. Serie A is always this romantic league with the colorful managers and the colorful owners of clubs. And that's what I like about the Italian league. It's
Yeah,
so it's so interesting. Every team has its own story and their own rivalries with I don't know, I just love it.
yeah, there's always drama there, and I always say that about Syria. I say nothing can ever be simple or easy or smooth. Even when you get into this pandemic situation and coming back, there's always that twist. And even though Bundesliga
Yeah.
made it smooth and nice little transition trying to come back, Syria had news all over the map of what was going to happen, and it keeps you on your toes as a fan.
Always. And it doesn't even matter which match you're watching. It can be like Fiorentina against Bari, and there will be something between them. It's always interesting. I don't know. I
Yeah,
love Serie.
you betcha. So leading into this match against Bologna, obviously, Juventus coming off the defeat in the Coppa Italia final in penalty kicks to Napoli. Um, in the days after, Sarri started to speak on Cristiano Ronaldo's lack of fitness, which is very strange, I thought, because we were getting reports that he was in incredible shape, better than March when everything got shut down, and that his speed had increased and all this. We know about Ronaldo's training regimen and how strict he is and whatnot. So I just find it odd, but he did look off. He looked off physically and whatnot. But then we also had rumors of a dust up and an argument and heated discussion between Sarri and Pjanic. And while I could totally believe it, it's normally fine. These things will happen amongst a club. You will get some heated discussions and whatnot. That's not the issue, but it becomes more of an issue and a little more highlighted when you have a coach who's being criticized and being questioned on whether he has the respect of his players and his club. Then that discussion changes a bit, and it's not looked at in such a uh, in such a manner that can be easily brushed aside, because of his
Yeah.
history with players and because of the fact that everybody's questioning whether these guys have faith in Sarri and respect him. So we had all this going on. And, you had leaks of an original lineup that had Pjanic benched and all this weighing in on it. But then Sarri comes out and he says, no, that's fake news. We speak the most amongst my team and the players. Pjanic, I always speak. He's fine. He's just trying to sweep it under the rug. And then you get the lineup before the match, and Pjanic is back in as regista. So whether or not he's doing this to kind of squash things or what, nobody still really knew. But the starting lineup became Szczesny in goal, Quadrado, De Ligt, Bonucci, and De Sciglio at the back, obviously with Alexandro out injured for about 3 weeks, they're estimating. Then you have Bentancur, Pjanic, and Rabiot in the middle. Bernardeschi with Dybala and Ronaldo up front. I liked it, except I thought we should have went Bentancur and Regista despite any rumors of arguments or anything with Pjanic. I just thought Bentancur should be in there, and then Ramsey as Mitsala. But I want to get your thoughts, Omer, when you saw the lineup and everything that was kind of going on with Juve, just how you felt when you saw the lineup for this match.
Okay, so well, the back four was naturally what we all expected. There were no other options, so no surprises there. But I can't hide it. If anyone follows my page, then I bash Pjanic a lot. I don't think he should be a starter. So whenever I see him starting, and especially as Regista, then I know something is going to be wrong. Is going to be anonymous. And after all the reports that Ramsey would start, and never mind Matuidi, Rabiot, but the important thing is Bentancur as Regista. And so it was a bit disappointing, but then again, I thought, okay, it's Bologna. They haven't played for 3 months. So it should be all right. We should beat them pretty easily. And I was glad to finally see Bernardeschi back in his position, the position we bought him to play in. So I was kind of optimistic. I looked at it and thought, well, this should be a win. There's no reason it won't be.
Yeah, I was interested. Like, I liked seeing Bernardeschi up there up front. Again, seeing Dybala listed more centrally, I just wanted that to actually play out that way, because we know that they're given so much freedom up there that they're all rotating everywhere. But I wanted to just truly see Dybala there and Ronaldo working off the left, because Sarri even post Napoli match was speaking to Cristiano Ronaldo, and he said, of course he likes playing off the left. You know, he scored how many goals coming off the left and whatnot, and it's almost infuriating hearing him talk like that as a fan,
Yeah,
because you're like, if you know this and he scored an insane amount of goals out there, make him happy.
yeah,
Like, keep him happy, keep him doing what he enjoys doing and what he feels most comfortable with. Because when you really look at it, those last 2 matches, he just didn't look comfortable either, on top of being a little bit slower and, you know, maybe not as uh physically fit, because we all know there's fitness and then there's match fitness. And these guys haven't been playing for a while, right? But at least keep them comfortable, because he didn't look comfortable in those first 2 matches. So it's frustrating as a fan to hear him say these things and do the opposite. You know, it's like
yeah,
things we know of. And it goes back to Pjanic as well. We can see it. Everybody can see that he struggles. He's not himself, as Regista. Bentancur is growing each time he's put out there, but you don't get to see it, and he doesn't go to it. So it's just frustrating to watch, right? But Bologna should be able to get this victory, and we get into the game, and it's about a minute in, and Szczesny plays this odd back and forth with De Ligt, and I'm thinking, oh my God, are we gonna put ourselves under here for a second? But we manage. It goes out a little
yeah.
shaky at the back there, but 6 minutes in, and Ronaldo makes a nice cut coming off the left side into the middle. His attempt gets saved, and then Bernardeschi, going in for the rebound, tries to just a little chip behind that defender. He's claiming for handball, but to no avail, and it was not a handball, so it was a good call there, non-call there. And we continue. 12-minute in, Rabiot gets deep. He tries to cross it in, and another appeal for handball, but again, right call, not a handball. It bounced off one defender into another's arm. So I I was fine with it not being called. 20 minutes in, there's a scramble in the area, and a foul is called outside of Bologna's area. But then they start to review the play, and you could see Delict's jersey was getting tugged by a defender. Um, Referee ends up going to VAR review, and he awards the penalty kick to Juve. Ronaldo's stepping up, and he finishes this one 1-0. Thank you. We have a goal to celebrate after 2 full matches and about 74
Finally,
minutes against a 10-man Milan. So we have a goal, 1-0 up, 20th minute mark, and yeah, this game, we're about 20 minutes on 1-0 up. I started to see some good things already. Bernardeschi staying true to that right wing position, keeping the width, and avoiding us bunching up, which is something we've seen a lot of throughout the season, where we will bunch up to one side because those forwards have so much freedom. And then when the ball gets switched to the opposite side, we have no forwards over there and almost nowhere to go with the ball. So we did a good job of that and keeping Bologna stretched. Okay. And we did see this early on in the match. Bologna was playing a very open style of football. They were not parking the bus like we're used to seeing. They were actually playing a very open
finally,
match. But
finally, a team that wants to win against Juve, not just salvage a draw and consider that a victory. I can't see those bunkers against Juve when they park the bus, and that's why these are the types of games that we are not able to win. The
yeah,
games the team was their defense against us, then all of this the passing style that Sarri has, just it comes to nothing, because in the end you just need a good pass in, and when there are 8 players inside the box, you won't get that pass in.
yeah.
And finally, a team that defends and tries to win.
Yeah. The thing is that while, recognizing that Bologna was playing a more open style and trying to go at Juve for more than just, hanging on to a draw or whatnot, we were still doing the right things that we should be doing against clubs that are parking the bus. Keeping that width, keeping the defense stretched, switching the play often. And DeCilio started off, it was the first 20 minutes, and I could see the space he was already creating for Ronaldo because he was making that advanced movement off the ball and continually taking that defender, holding them true, opening up a little bit of space for Ronaldo. What it also did was it kept Adrian Rabiot more central, which allowed all our midfielders naturally to hold more of their position, supporting the forwards. So there was never these big gaps amongst flanks to forwards and whatnot. Also, something that was happening that happened steady throughout the game is Delict. Delict was able to move forward a bit, and be another pivot point for the flanks and midfielders to hit with a pass. And then he was able to dictate where he could go with the ball, what forward he would go to, and whatnot. And it was something that continued. And it was working great. They were doing a lot of things right. We just need to do that consistently, and have that set system, that set style, and determine this. And that's kind of one of the frustrating things about Juve this season. You will see something, and then you will get, something completely different the next match. It's just we just got to put it together more consistently. So we're 1-0 up, 20 minutes, a lot of good signs. How are you feeling in that opening quarter of an hour there?
It was actually a big change in my emotions, because before the referee went to check the VAR, and Rabiot headed the ball into the area, and some player bashed him to the ground, and the referee just gave the foul to Bologna. And I was about to throw something at my TV. I couldn't believe it. and suddenly he checks the VAR and it's a penalty for us and it's a goal. Okay, 1-0 up, first goal after the lockdown. Okay, here we go.
Yeah.
Let's start working. But just a few seconds before, I was so angry and I couldn't believe he gave the foul to Bologna. So that gave me a bit of a boost. I saw that Juve are pretty much dominating. The passing play works. Everybody is energetic. So I felt quite good after those first 20 minutes.
That's good. Yeah, I mean, it was Bologna again. They were playing for it, right? So it got a little chippy early on for calls and whatnot. And yeah, it was. I felt that a bit of unevenness, towards the calls. Like some that were getting called, and then something very similar not getting called a few minutes later, and you're thinking, well, it's got to be a little bit consistent, a little closer than that. But
Yeah.
we continued on. 35th minute, Tech plays another dangerous ball up the middle. Bologna couldn't quite capitalize. The ball just gets rolling back to Szczesny. He picks it up and he just bombs this thing with a throw up the field, and we are right back up in attacking mode. And we basically move up the pitch up the left wing. We work it around, and again, Delict ends up getting the ball as he steps up into that space to provide that support. He's the one who plays a ball right along the floor to Bernardeschi, who makes a fantastic touch to Dybala. And after he makes that touch, he continues his run, which essentially leaves that defender in front of Dybala a little flat-footed because he has to cover for that pass on Bernardeschi's run. But Dybala takes one step in and takes a fantastic shot into the top corner. And we're 2-0 up, and that was a beautiful goal to watch. This goal, your thoughts when you see that one, Omar, and just the ball movement and Delict stepping up, Bernardeschi's touch, and then the run off of it, just fantastic.
You have to give credit to Bernardeschi. That was a great pass. I didn't see it coming. And the run, you mentioned that a lot, that Bernardeschi does make really good runs all the time, and he doesn't get rewarded for it. So this time he did. It was the reward of a goal, but those movements, they carry players out of positions. And
Yeah,
especially against Bologna, who played with 3 center backs. Then once you draw one out of position, it opens up a lot of space. A lot of space. And Dybala capitalized on that. And he did what he does best. We know Dybala, this is his deadliest area. I don't know how many of his goals came from that area, but he's a specialist from there. Whether it's right or left, doesn't matter. Beautiful shot into the top corner, but the applause should go to Bernardeschi.
yeah,
He
absolutely.
made it possible.
I loved everything about it. We moved up the left side of the pitch quickly. When it became shut down, it was okay. DeCilio was holding his space. It was able to keep Rabiot in the middle there. They worked it around. Pjanic got involved. DeCilio dropped back, and then again, they find Delict, who steps up into that space. That adds a whole new element to Bologna trying to defend Juve because someone has to commit. But at the same time, they need to protect. And while that's happening, when Delict gets the ball, with Bernardeschi holding position, Quadrado out wide, it really stretched Bologna. They had to try and figure this out, right? And again, that's why I say when we have teams that park the bus, we're not set up to switch that ball so effectively because we're so spaced out, especially in the front, and that was not happening this match. But Bernardeschi, yeah, you're right. I talk about it all the time. He will make great runs. That touch pass from him to the ball was fantastic. But the main thing was that run. He plays so well off the ball. And it's something that we don't typically get because a lot of our guys want that possession all the time. They want that ball to feet and they want to be the start of all our sequences, right? So he just gives that other element. And I would, we're going to need him with this condensed schedule and everything. So I hope he can build, kind of off this performance. And we'll talk more on him as the game goes on. But yeah, we're 2-0 up. A great, great goal. Feeling good because it was right around this mark. Juve started to get stronger and stronger, right? 4 minutes later, um, we've got some pressure on Bologna again, and we're moving the ball around. The ball finds Ronaldo out on the left side. He beats his man. He makes a great cross, and Dybala tries to get on this volley with his off foot, his right foot. He just unfortunately couldn't direct it towards goal, but another great opportunity. And again,
By the
yeah,
way, another great run from Bernardeschi.
yes,
Because of his to the middle, he left Dybala wide open. No one was covering him.
yeah,
He had time to stop the ball and ask the keeper where he wants him to put it. But unfortunately, he missed. But it was a good move. It was an encouraging move.
yeah, absolutely.
Someone
And
at the back post. There was never someone at the back post. And finally, someone made that run. So a little bit more encouraging, yeah.
yeah, exactly. The first half ends, it's 2-0. And honestly, it was much, much better than anything we've seen in the first two matches. Um, a little questionable at the back, a little nervousness coming at the back, and just how we were playing out.
But mainly
Um,
from Szczesny, not from
yeah,
a defender. The defenders were fine.
yeah,
A
some
bit of.
sloppy passing here and there, which is expected. Still, it's the third match back. You've got
Yeah, but when your keeper gives in a
yeah,
slap pass, then it's an opportunity for the other team.
yeah, and not just at the back, just in general. There was still some sloppy passing. Pjanic making a couple that just weren't even close. Dybala, a couple one-hit passes that just were a little bit strange and way off. That Orsolini ended up cutting off a couple. So yeah, just other than that, everything else I was happy with. Positionally, that was the key. So much better than in the first two matches positionally, and how we hold our zones and um, kept the
Yeah, and
defense honest.
of course, and the Ligt sort of played like a regista. He covered for what he did, what Pjanic was supposed to do. He was
Yeah,
coming in close to the mid circle, and then players don't know what to do when a defender runs, and they have their assignments. This one looks at Pjanic, and this one at Bentancur, and blah blah blah. And suddenly, when a defender plays like a regista, then it opens up spaces. He can run and bring the ball all the way to the other team area, and the league did it wonderfully in that game.
yeah, and it was surprising to see because you would almost think Bonucci would be the guy that they would kind of have do that, right? So
Yeah.
I was surprised to see Delict kind of taking that role and stepping forward, but he did fantastic. So it was
Well,
great.
he's a better dribbler. He's a better dribbler than Bonucci.
Yeah, I'm just thinking that as big as he is, Delict on a counter, he looks much more secure than Bonucci, you know?
Yeah.
So I'd almost have more trust in him being the guy cleaning things up. But again, very nice to see and nice to know that he can do that just as well, if not better than Bonucci, right? And that the two of them could almost alternate being the guys that come in to fill that
Yeah.
support.
And maybe that's a bit of a some pressure was taken off him, because in the first few games, well, in the first half a season, he looked like he always checks to see if he's in the right position, so he wouldn't make those runs forward. And now he feels more comfortable, so he knows who covers him, so he can run forward and go back. And it was good. It actually
Yeah,
worked great.
just another element that we're getting now to Delict's game as he's getting more and more comfortable. It's great to see. But yeah, I mean, overall that first half, I was very, very happy. Um, you know, uh, Bologna playing an open match, but again, I cannot stress enough, we were doing the right things. We just need to continue on that path. Um,
Yeah, and I tweeted in halftime that it kind of feels like we're missing a striker more than a regista because Pjanic wasn't that much involved, and Rabiot and Bentancur did most of the heavy lifting in the midfield. And
Yeah,
it felt like there's an Higuain missing there, another regista. I didn't feel Pjanic was missing in that game. Like we're playing with 10 men. It felt like a striker is missing.
yeah,
Like that half could have ended 4-0 if we
yeah,
just
yeah, absolutely. And yeah, I think one of the things we touched on with the starting line, it was nice to see for the most part, they still have a lot of freedom, but for the most part, Bernardeschi stuck to the right, Dybala stuck centrally, and Ronaldo was left.
yeah.
And I don't know, it just gave us that continuity of the play and guys knowing who was going to be where and what was going to happen. It just, um, yeah, I've always questioned our chemistry and our consistency due to the fact that there's so much movement amongst the personnel positionally.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on that, Omer?
I think the team looked just a lot more disciplined. Like when in the last two games against Milan and Napoli, it didn't like everyone was running everywhere because no one knew where to be except for the center backs. And now everyone's stuck to their position and they knew exactly what they had to do. And you could see that just one glance at every attack, and you see that everyone knows where they should be. Especially De Chilio, who made great runs that we didn't see from Sandro in a long time. And those runs were they opened up a lot of space, and Bologna kind of, if it was a bit more oiled up and played a few matches earlier, it might have been even better. But you can see he's rubbing off the rust from the pandemic, but that's how I felt about the first half. It was
Yeah,
an amazing first half.
yeah, and yeah, DeCilio. I mean, yeah, he did a great job. I am no stranger to criticizing Sandro for the lack of involvement on that flank, and you know, getting guys like Matuidi and Rabiot to have to end up by the corner flag because he's just not occupying that space, right? And it
Yeah,
has a domino effect. It goes down the line. All of a sudden, we have our left mid up in the corner, and it just has a trickle down effect. Now, all of a sudden, whoever our regista is gets sucked over a little more, and then all of a sudden, the next mid has to get sucked over, and then next thing you know, one corner ball the opposite direction, and a team has completely countered us if they switch the ball to that opposite flank. So it was nice to see DeCilio doing that and getting it done, and how much it helped Ronaldo when it came to space and defenders and what he had to go up against, right? Where usually he would be outnumbered, he found himself in a lot of 1v1 scenarios, which is what you want. You want to get Ronaldo in those 1v1s. But yeah, it
yeah,
was great.
because when he's in the center, then he always have to face two center backs. But when he's on the wing, then he has to face one wing back. So it's kind of easier. Ronaldo in the center is a good idea for FIFA. When I play FIFA, I play with Ronaldo in the center.
Yeah,
But doesn't work in real life. And if Ronaldo is asking to play there because he feels more comfortable, then he must know what he's talking about.
yeah,
So
absolutely. So
I
we get
actually
to
like
this.
that.
Yeah, so we get to the second half, 51st minute, and Ronaldo gets a bit of a bad touch from a ball that was sent over by Dybala. Um, After Bernardeschi with, again, a great run, and he dummied it. Ronaldo just got a bad touch on it, gets cleaned up. But um, Ronaldo, after, is actually sent through on the same wave of pressure. Bernardeschi ends up getting the ball, coming across the middle with the ball. He slips it to Ronaldo after a defender made a jump into the space Bernardeschi was running into, and Bernardeschi found Ronaldo. He tried to tap it with the outside of his boot, but he just missed the goal. And again, Bernardeschi just continuing on the 52nd minute. Next minute, Bernardeschi cuts inside on his man, hits an absolute beauty of a shot, and ends up hitting the post. I think keeper may have got fingertips to it or whatnot and
Yeah,
direct it to the post.
that's
But
yeah,
man, just continuing with his lively performance and just really a good showing. It must be the hair. I don't know. Now he's got the long hair back. And when you think back to the first season he was with us, it was probably arguably his best. And if that's what it is, keep it, Bernardeschi. Keep it. Because he was playing
yeah,
great. 54th minute, Dybala, after a blocked free kick, he gets the ball on the left. He makes a run across the middle, hits it with his right foot. A great shot, curling, but too much curl and curls away from the short side post there. But Juve looking good, you know. Bologna come out still looking to get something out of the game in the second half, not parking it. But we were still moving the ball well, and there was a good, great understanding amongst Ronaldo, Bernardeschi, and Dybala. They were making things happen. It was great. It was great to see. After about that point, you know, you get a little bit further, 60th minute, and then I felt a bit of the intensity kind of start to fade and go into a bit more of a management mode in this game from Juve. And I was okay with it. We have a condensed schedule, you know, and the last thing we need is more injuries, you know. And
yeah,
I'm kicking myself because right as my mind starts to go into that 66th minute and DeCilio running down a ball pulls up with a hamstring, it looks like.
hmm.
And I'm thinking, oh my God. And of course, of all positions, the fullback
Yeah,
position. So he tries to give it a go. He can't. Ends up getting a yellow card because he steps back onto the field before dropping, and he knew exactly what he was doing. Danilo comes in for DeCilio. So all you can do is hope that you know, he'll recover as quick as possible. It is frustrating. We just didn't have support. Now we're down to Quadrado and Danilo as fullbacks.
yeah.
70th minute, Matuidi ends up subbing in for Rabiot and Ramsey in for Pjanic. Let's get your thoughts on both of those guys' performances as they get subbed.
I think Rabiot was pretty good. I didn't contribute too much offensively, but defensively he was solid. He was in the right place, and he always tracked back, and he was always in his position where you want him to be. Pjanic, I don't know. I don't think he's a good regista. Like the minute Bentancur switched back to regista, you didn't even notice how smooth it was. Suddenly you saw Bentancur a lot more involved. He was kind of anonymous up until that point, and suddenly it felt right at home.
Yeah.
And Pjanic, that okay, you can pass the ball to the left and to the right as much as you want, but if he doesn't produce anything, then it's meaningless. And so I didn't feel like he was missing when he played and when he was subbed off. And I don't know how much minutes Rabiot has played up until now, so it was good that he should rest.
Yeah.
Matuidi should get a minute, so I was fine. It was actually, I thought he was going to take Bentancur out because he played the full 90 minutes against Milan and Napoli, but it surprised me. That was the substitution I wanted to see.
Yeah, I think you kind of nailed it on the head. I had the same feelings. Rabiot, I thought, was nothing, you know, amazing, but he did his job. He did it well. He was much more involved defensively, doing a great job. But he did find himself in some areas in and around the box in the area, which was fine. It was just, yeah, it was a fine performance. There was nothing. I can't
Yeah,
say it was very great, but it wasn't poor by any means. It was just fine. Pjanic, um, nothing special, nothing highlighted. He wasn't awful, but he wasn't terribly involved. But yeah, when Bentancur goes in there, this is my thing with Bentancur is everybody says there are some fans when we discuss Bentancur that think he's better suited to the Mezzala role. And I disagree. I think he's more suited to being that control type player, that quarterback esque player. You see it when he plays for Uruguay too, nationally,
Yeah.
as he plays in a different setup in the midfield, two-man pivot system, but still they're alternating control, and he's usually controlling the play and dictating tempo and where the ball goes and whatnot. And yeah, he looks a different player in that role for us. So be
Yeah,
interested.
and someone I read an article not long ago that the number 6 is the new 10. Like,
Yeah,
this is the most important role in any team right now, and he has to have all the qualities, the defensive qualities and the offensive qualities. He needs to be good at long shots. He needs to be a good passer. He needs to have a lot of energy, and every top tier team has that guy. And Bendencourt, and he answers all of those questions. He fits the bill much better than anyone else on our roster. And Pjanic is, I don't know what he's good at. And he might be a good passer and a good free kick taker, but defensively, you need that guy. You need that monster in the middle that doesn't stop running. And if you go through any team like Real Madrid, Barcelona, and Manchester City, look at the type of player that plays there. Usually a tall guy, very physical, very energetic. And that's why I think we need Bentancur there and not Pjanic. And and the minute he goes to that register role, you feel the change instantly.
yeah, yeah. No, I agree with you. I agree with you completely. Let's carry on with the match here, and yeah, we've talked about them Juve going into a match mode completely fine. Bologna again, not really carrying a lot of threat, which was helping us. So that's fine. 82nd minute, Danilo gets a yellow card.
Hmm.
Questionable challenge to make in a 2-0 game, whatnot, but he's trying to get there to a 50-50, goes in, studs up. It is what it is. Gets a yellow card. 89th minute, Tech sends a long ball upfield. Costa ends up getting into it, was streaking in, plays it across to Ronaldo, who was definitely onside from Costa. He scores, but it's called back because Costa couldn't get back in time from Chesney's ball. It was so close.
Yeah.
But yeah, it would have been nice, but it is what it is. 90th minute, and now we get a very, very lazy foul by Danilo. Gets his second yellow card. Turns into a red. He's sent off. Now we have Deshilio who got hurt in this match. Danilo getting red. We only have one fullback for the match against Lecce, unless Deshilio can heal in that time, which I doubt. And he's not even a true fullback. We have Cuadrado. This is just so frustrating to see Danilo take that foul, and it just, all he had to do was literally jockey his man up the side. That's all he had to do. It's so frustrating. And he did not play.
It was a dumb foul.
Yeah, he did not play the match. I mean, he entered this match in the 66th minute. Just jockey your guy if you're going to be that. It was so frustrating. Yeah, unbelievable.
But the red card was, it felt like it was coming. I was actually surprised didn't get the red card for the first foul, because that was a pretty bad foul. Okay, he didn't aim to hurt the player. If someone would have made that foul on a Juve player, I would have said straight red. But okay, he got off easily. A yellow card, I felt, like Bologna was a bit harshly done by, but then he got the second yellow card he wanted. It looks like
like that. The first one, like I say, I mean, it's just both of these fouls. I see as avoidable. Like just
pointless.
Yeah,
pointless.
Just useless fouls, right? So it's just frustrating. And of course, fullback and a position we do not have depth whatsoever in. So it'll be very interesting to see what develops, what happens. There's talk of Barreto there from the young side there coming in, but I don't really know. I'm not sure. Luckily, it's Lecce and not Lazio. So we
Yeah.
should be able to still, get by. It'll be interesting to see what happens there. But the match
This
ends.
actually might be a good time for.
It
Yeah.
what's
No, continue. I'll talk
okay.
about it.
Just essentially, yeah, the match ends. It's 2-0. A lot of good from this match. Still trying to work off that rust from the stoppage and whatnot, but this was miles ahead of what we saw in the first two matches. A lot of
Yeah.
positives out of it, and Bernardeschi probably had my vote. He or Dybala for man of the match. You could even argue Delict, who was fantastic in this match. Those are probably the three I would say, and I'd be happy with any one of those three. If I had to give an edge somewhere, honestly, it'd be hard to split between Dybala and Bernardeschi. I think Dybala is so crucial to our
Yeah.
offense, and having him centrally and work centrally opens up a lot for us. But Bernardeschi did a lot of good in this one too. So I'd have a really hard time picking out of those two. Maybe because he got a goal, I'd probably say Dybala. But your choice on man of the match and any more thoughts you have in this one.
I would actually like to give that to Delict. He had a monstrous performance. Because it's so hard for me to choose between Bernardeschi and Dybala, who had the more attacking contribution, then I'll go with Delict, who had dominated the back four. And a little shout out to Cuadrado. He was
Yeah.
very, very solid defensively, which is what you don't get from him usually. He makes good runs, he has a lot of energy, but defensively, he's not a natural right back. But in the last match, he was good against
Yeah.
Bologna. They didn't get past him. Nothing came from his side of the field. And I wanted to get your take about Orsolini because there were some rumors that we might bring him back this summer or next summer, and he had fine match, I guess. He had a lot of shots on goal, many from outside the area, but would you
Yeah.
like to see?
Orsolini, I thought he had some moments there. He had some good moments. You could see some good. I mean, he did have an opportunity where he cut across goal. I believe it was in the second half. Yeah, it was second half. And he took a hit that didn't miss that top corner by much. Um,
Yeah.
he's lively. He's lively. He's not scared to get involved in the defensive phase. He's got good legs. Um, uh, I I'd be okay with us, bringing Orsolini in and kind of moving that way. I think honestly he doesn't. I don't know. I have this thing with Juve where I feel like sometimes we just, even as fans, like it's got to be this flashy name, you know. It's got to be
Yeah.
this caliber of player that we almost feel like we're too good to get these guys and take these opportunities. But whether it's Orsolini or a couple other young guys that are in there, I mean, I think the biggest thing that is highlighted on this team is we don't truly have depth. Our
Yeah.
depth looks good on paper, but on the pitch, it's almost non-existent. Bernardeschi, if he played matches like this all the time, it'd be a different story with that guy, But we just
He'd be a starter.
don't see it, right? So hopefully now he can actually build off that. Hopefully, in all fairness to him, he gets played in that position again, steadily, right? But Orsolini, I'd be just fine with it. I see a lot of good in him. Is he going to be that guy that ends up, banging in a lot of goals for Juve? I don't know, but right now all I can tell you is Costa is basically only a super sub, you know.
Yeah.
I think in those matches he started, it was just not where it needed to be.
Yeah.
Way
Well,
too
it's
much
a problem.
way too
It's a
much
problem
freedom.
because I'll tell you what, his best position is where Ronaldo plays. He's a left winger. Yeah, I know they try to move him to the center and to the right, but at the end of the day, he's a left winger. He does his best work on the left. So he needs to be a sub right now. And I like him a lot. I really like, but I don't know, if it doesn't work, then it doesn't work. And Bernardeschi is a right winger, like you saw yesterday, like you saw when he was at Fiorentina. His best matches for us were when he was a right winger.
Yeah,
So that's a no question right now. That's a
yeah,
no-brainer. Bernardeschi should start on the right.
yeah. And that's just it, is seeing these guys where they need to be consistently. And yeah, like when you look at Costa, he's best as a super sub, really, but he's got a lot of injury issues too. So, if we were to make a move, get him out, bring Orsolini in, I'm fine with that. The issue with Juve is we have quite a bit of cleanup to do when it comes to the
Ooh,
roster, just from the
quite a
way
bit is
management has
putting
set
it
us up,
mildly. Yeah.
so. But before we get into all this, too, big win. We needed this win. It puts us 4 points up atop, and there is a critical matchup on Wednesday between Atalanta and Lazio. And this result will be very important to see what comes from that match. And if Atalanta can get some points out of that, that will potentially put Juve up quite a bit after their next match if they can get the result, which would be a very, very, could be the turning point or a very, very crucial pivotal point in the race, which has been fantastic. Up until this point, even with the stoppage or whatnot, we were watching one of the best races for quite some time. So this will be a big matchup on Wednesday between those two clubs.
Yeah.
And yeah, I'm looking forward to actually seeing that. It's one of those things where we talk about Juve, and we talked a bit about it leading up to this match, and just fans' feelings and where we were at and whatnot. And Atalanta is that prime example, because everybody was trying to use the stoppage as this um, reason and this explanation as to why Juve was just so poor and all this. But man, the more matches I'm watching and all these other clubs going, they just they didn't look as bad as we were in those first two matches. And I spoke a lot about that on our preview episodes podcast. I just said the difference between those other teams is they had their set system. They knew their best 11. They knew where to put their guys. We didn't have that. We had glimpses here and there. And sorry again, like we spoke to in the starting lineup, he gives us what we know doesn't work too often, you know?
Yeah.
And we have all these other stories about sorry. And now, of course, the discussion has become with more sources, whether they're, let's not get into the ranking of the sources, but there's a lot of speculation that he won't be here with Juve next season, regardless of what ends up happening. And I want to get your thoughts, because I said something in the last episode with Mustafa there, and it was, I think we need to take a step back, and it's very, very hard because of our tradition, our rich history, and the fact that we are on an incredible run of 8 straight Scudetti. We had those doubles in there with the Copa as well. It's very, very hard to do this. But if we actually look at it from a transitional standpoint, even if Sarri were to get one trophy, say he gets the Scudetto, that's still, in my mind, looking at it logically, it's a success to make a switch in managers from Allegri to Sarri and still retain your Serie A title. That's a successful season in my eyes. given drop in the Coppa Italia. Champions League is very hard. I mean, even if you look back to what we were doing with Allegri, and now this season, we have to turn around that match against Lyon, but then it becomes a single stage knockout for the remainder of that tournament. This is very, very crazy to try and judge Sarri with that tournament now. It's already incredibly hard to win and you need some good fortune, but turning it into a single game is crazy. So in my mind, logically, if we look at this, if he were to get the Scudetto, I would see that as a successful season, given the transition we're trying to make. And then give him a Mercado where we can actually support him and hopefully try and make the right moves. But we will be limited too because of the pandemic. But I want to get your thoughts on the whole Sarri thing, and should we move away from him regardless? Is it a successful season only getting the Scudetto? Is it not? Like, how do you feel?
I'll tell you the truth. It's a weird thing to say, but I don't want Juve to win the Scudetto this season, because if there's one thing we learned is that when we win titles, everyone thinks that everything is okay. But you and I know, and every Juve fan knows, that things are not okay. We have a lot of issues to solve. And I don't want them, after winning a ninth straight Scudetto, thinking, okay, so it worked with Quadrado, so no need for a new right back. And it worked with Pjanic, so no need for a new Regista, and blah, 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 blah. And there are a lot of issues to solve. And this management right now considers only titles. And last season, we had the same problems with Allegri. Okay, so we changed the coach, but the problems remain, the same players remain. And you can see the same problems right now. So Juve will have to lose the Scudetto at some point. Okay, maybe after 9 seasons, maybe after 15, maybe in 20 years, but sometimes they lose it. And it's important for us fans too, to know that Juve is not invincible, because the players need to know that. Because right now we're angry that we didn't win the Coppa Italia. Take me back seven years ago, okay, 10 years ago. We would have given up a leg to win the Coppa Italia, under Del Neri. So we got so used to winning that we don't appreciate those things anymore. Anything less than a victory of, 5-0 is unacceptable. And I think we need to tone that back a bit, especially us fans. And I want the management to know that we have problems and they need to address those problems, or it will just get worse from season to season. And I don't want big name signing. I want to see a project of young, talented players, players that will take us. And I don't want a 33-year-old Ronaldo that is good for 2 years, 3 years max, and we're at the same point again. And we'll sign another Higuain, or we need to start building for the future if you want to continue this successive run that we had. So of course, it's funny to say, of course I would like to win the Scudetto. But first of all, I need a confirmation that the management knows that things are not all right. And I got a little bit off topic here, but with Sarri, I think he's just a bit old in the way he communicates with the players, because the most successful coaches now are fairly young. They understand today's game. If you look at anyone, Zidane, Jurgen Klopp, Guardiola, even Inzaghi, even Conte, they know how to get those wins. They know which players they need. And Sarri has one system. It works when other teams try to attack us. But when those teams start defending and parking the bus and his system doesn't work, there's no alternative. And in today's football, you need to have alternatives. You need to know how to win those games. And the players today are players that grew into the social media age, and they need a lot of attention. A player like Pogba, that all of these players, they need to be dealt with in, like, how would I call it? In like those silk gloves. It's not like the old days where you just throw a player into a team and adjust yourself. And like if you look back at the 90s, you didn't care what player felt or wanted. You're playing for Juventus, play up to par, or you'll be kicked out. And it's not today's football. Today, even with what we can say to players, it's crazy that you can send a direct message to Cristiano Ronaldo and he might answer you. You can
Yeah.
send a message to Dybala and he might answer you. That's crazy. If you told that to me in the 90s, I wouldn't have believed you. So you need the younger coaches that gives more attention and knows that that's what you need to do to get your players to give out 150% each match. And
Yeah.
that's another problem with Sarri, because the players that gets rewarded for minutes and for contracts are not the players that earn that. No, I don't believe Sarri sees Pjanic and thinks to himself, wow, that's a good game. No, you couldn't think that. If you watch football long enough, you know that it's not good.
Yeah.
Says so. Bench him. What are you thinking to yourself? I mean,
Yeah.
to me. So I
You,
believe Sarri is a bit too old for today's football, and we need a younger coach.
that's interesting. You touched on a lot of good points there and everything you've said, even in regards to management and just us as fans. Yes, sometimes we need to take a step back, and that's exactly what my point was. That people will dream. We can dream of the treble. That's fantastic, and I think we should. We should always be aiming to get there, but realistically, we're transitioning. We're transitioning with coaches. We need to clean up the roster of the dead weight that needs to be moved. And, if we can make that transition and still get a trophy out of it and continue to grow, and depending what happens with the Mercado and who we bring in and what kind of moves we make, this could still, like this season, I wouldn't rule it off as a failure by any means. If it's just, we get that Scudetto and we make some changes in the Mercado and strengthen our team and whatnot. But it's almost like you're getting this feeling with fans that, yeah, this is just terrible, whatever, because we can't get what we need out of Sarri. But I have my frustrations with Sarri. You touched on a great point, that flexibility, those alternatives, and him not having that. We had Allegri who, he was very flexible. He was able to adapt. His system still sacrificed Dybala. It always seemed to be that Dybala was that odd man out. Whereas you have Sarri now, whose system is actually sacrificing several guys, and he doesn't have that flexibility. So, and you start to ask yourself, well, what is better? Like technically you would love to create something where you're not sacrificing anybody, but that's very, very hard to do. Very, very hard to do in a club. And Allegri, even for all my criticisms of him towards the end, he was good at that, limiting the guys that you'd have to sacrifice and whatever, and still trying to work around it. It was really going sideways with Dybala, which left me with some bad feelings for Sarri, because again, even going back to management, we should be building off of this guy. We should be building around Paulo Dybala, not treating him as a guy we need to fit in, right? But Sarri's stubbornness and lack of flexibility is kind of his one thing that's a knock to him, and it is creating some issues. I think it's probably what's creating a lot of the inconsistency that we've seen throughout the season, is not building off the signs that are there, that are the way we should be moving.
Yeah.
It's clear as day. Like his whole experiment with Trequartista and everybody he's thrown in there and sticking with it for so long at the start of the season that you were like, man, it isn't working. It doesn't matter who you put in there. Get away from it.
Yeah.
He essentially, you've got Bernardeschi in there and Ramsey in there, and neither one of them is really excelling. And it's like, just go away from it. Go away from it. How long did we have to wait? And unfortunately for Bernardeschi, it just makes him a whipping boy too.
Yeah,
In a situation that he didn't need to be in there. Like we could see that 3 weeks into the season that, you know what, that's just not for him. Like, get him out of there or whatnot. And then here we are after a pandemic, huge stoppage. He goes in at right wing and he does a great job.
yeah,
We just got to do things that work and make sense. Now, we talk about team players and who we'd like to see and whatnot. Obviously, in this Mercado, there's been some names that have been linked to Juve. One guy I want to get your take on is Arthur, because I've gotten into this with some fans over discussion on social media and whatnot. For me personally, I am bothered at the fact that he is acting as if he's going to a mid-table team. Hasn't really
yeah.
acknowledged Juve's existence. Now all of a sudden he's starting to turn the corner because he's going to make 3.2 million more than he is at Barca. And it's kind of frustrating me because it's like, if he's got that much desire to stay at Barca, just leave him there. Let's go an alternative way, because I stressed this at the start of this transfer rumor, when it was like, oh, he's just not expressing a willingness to leave Barca and whatnot. And then I started thinking, like, what's going to make this guy's mind is going to be financials. And do we want guys where that's ultimately what makes their decision? So I want to get your take on the Arthur move before we get into a little bit more of a look at players we should be looking at.
Okay, so first of all, my brother-in-law and some of my friends are big Barca fans. So I get to watch a lot of Barca games and I get to watch Arturo a lot. And Arthur is, I don't really believe that, because I don't think anyone knows what he really thinks and what he really said to the management. Don't know if he said to them, I don't want to go to Juve. It's like a step down for me. I don't know if that's true or not. No one does except for him and some people at Barca. I understand him a bit. He's a bit of a young player and he was a big promise. He still is a big promise in Barcelona, and he doesn't know what will go on with Juve and where will he play, if he would be a starter or not. But he is a talented player. He's a talented passer. He's got the long shots. I just don't think he's Juve material because of his mentality. Because you need to have a certain mentality to play for Juve. Like do you remember that Evra interview where he said that if you didn't run as much as you needed to in the game, then you would complete that in training?
Yeah.
And I know a lot of players that wouldn't like that. No, like make Zlatan Ibrahimovic run 2 more miles and day after a game because he didn't run them in the game. He would spit in your face. So a player like Ronaldo would appreciate it. He would
Yeah.
like to do it. And I don't think Arthur is that type of player from what I've seen and what I've heard. But that's just my opinion. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it's something, Barca, if there's one thing we can be happy about, is that Barca's management is much worse than Juve's management. Like it's the most ridiculous deal ever. Pjanic for Arthur, a 30-year-old with the same. I don't know what they're trying to do. So maybe it just doesn't work well with the Barca management, and it will be better with us. And there are some Brazilians here that he can work with and can help him settle in. But it is interesting, I've seen some of the rumors like Manuel Locatelli. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
Locatelli from Sassuolo? Is that the player really? He's not even that young. He has the room to improve. So if that's the players, Willian, Pedro, those type of players, okay, so bring me Arthur Melo. I prefer Arthur to these type of players.
Yeah. I mean, Locatelli, he's he's been he's been good for Sassuolo and whatnot, but I mean, I don't really know. Like, I I want a better balance. I think we need some energy, a little bit of a fresher team, just to get those legs and whatnot, and just better balance. I think we locked ourselves up with those bad contract extensions. you know, and
Yeah.
that's where it started to slip away from us because then some of the younger guys, some of those project guys, we had to get rid of to balance
Yeah.
everything out financially. But Locatelli's not really a guy I'm going crazy for. Willian and Pedro, that just, I don't even want to discuss it. Like I said, to be linked with these guys is absolutely shocking stuff. But keeping it with Sassuolo, Bolga, is a player that even is linked. And I mean, that's a bit of a project guy there that would be intriguing. Um, Zaniolo, obviously, even coming off that injury. I absolutely love Zaniolo. I think he'd be fantastic. I think for me in the midfield, Arthur, if it goes through, I mean, ultimately, all we can look at it is um, Pjanic needs to go. The time has
Yeah.
come. That's the biggest thing. And you kind of talked about it. The age difference is crazy. It doesn't really make sense from a Barcelona standpoint, but I will take it. My only thing is, and I'm not saying that Arthur has said anything negative. The fact is that he hasn't just even shown the respect to acknowledge or say that it is some type of honor or whatnot, because to me, that's just the class and respect, that you would show to a team of that caliber, right? And he's making it seem like, you know, it's just making it seem like almost he is too good for us. And, and
But he was never.
it may not be his intentions. I'm not saying that's what he's intending to do. I'm just saying it comes off a bit like that because as you get asked about transfer rumors and whatnot, you'll always hear players say, yeah, that's a great club. Our own Paulo Dybala has done that with clubs,
Yeah.
amidst all rumors and whatnot. And he doesn't disrespect those clubs. He never disrespected those clubs. He said afterwards that he was making things difficult because he never had the desire to leave Juve, which we love him
Yeah.
for. But he never disrespected those clubs and acknowledged them, at least acknowledged them,
Yeah.
and spoke
Well,
to.
man,
And
you
it's
might
just,
look at it that way. No, like he might be a Barcelona fan. You're a Juve fan. What if you were a Juve player? Growing up as a Juve fan and becoming a Juve player, what would it take to get you out of the club that you love to a different country, to a different team? It might be the thing is that no one ever confronted him about that. Everything that he said is, I don't know who said that, some reporters. He was never asked about that in an interview, and he said, I don't want to go to Juventus. So we'll wait until someone asks him about it and see what he says.
yeah. And that's the thing too. So if I'm playing for Juve, it's my lifelong dream, my club and everything. If rumors come up on, I would say, my desire is to stay here or whatnot. But I at least flattered, that this club would consider me or whatnot, and just show some sign of respect, because at the end of the day, you never really know what's going to happen. Just the way I look at it, I would never want to start that relationship off on that late. You know what I mean? It's just outlook. It's different outlooks. But I totally understand your point, and it might just be his dream and whatnot. And he's losing that, and there's a lot of things that play into it. It's just it's something so simple that you take for granted, and it raises those questions again. It may not have. I'm sure the financials help, obviously. You'd be making more money and whatnot. That might not be the determining factor, but it starts to make you think about it when he hasn't acknowledged. You know what I mean? It's just bringing up those feelings. Carrying on with some players, I brought up Zaniolo. There's Bolga there. I mean, in the middle of the park, I mean, honestly, the dream would be to get, for me, Verratti and have Pjanic go to PSG and work a deal there. Pogba, if Pogba could be made a possibility, I don't know. Like, I saw him come back.
Seems impossible at the moment.
Yeah, I don't see it happening. But the fact that many Juventini don't want him back, I understand why, whatnot. But I don't know. I watch him come back after that injury, and he's a game changer. It just, some of the passes he makes are just, we don't have that at all, not even close. And it's crazy, right? But I want to get your take on some players you'd be interested in seeing.
I look. I think Juve should move a bit from the big money transfers. If you're going to buy Pogba for 120 million, then might as well go for Kevin De Bruyne, which is the best central midfielder in the world, in my opinion, right now. So I think we should change the policy a bit. Go for a bit younger and bring in not one player for 120, bring in three new players, three young players who can work together and build their chemistry together, and plan for the long run. So the first one I would take for the midfield would be, I would like to see Wilfred Ndidi from Leicester. He's sort of a regista, but he's the player with the most tackles and most clearances and in the Premier League, which says a lot because there are a lot of great midfielders in the Premier League. And he's young, he's 24, he's everything I need from a midfielder. And it shouldn't be that expensive, but you aren't looking even in that direction. So it's just my hopes. I don't know, Tonali might be the player I want the most for the midfield, and I have no idea how Juve screwed that up. And that's a big problem. I would like to hear your take on that. When you watch teams like Dortmund and Bayern Munich and most of the big teams, they finalize their deals even before the Mercato starts. They, all the big money transfers and all the important transfers is, like getting done even before the summer. And Juve doesn't do that. Juve always get dragged into the middle of the summer and you don't know who will leave and who will come. And I think the first rule about transfers is that you have to sell before you buy. And Luciano Muggi knew that. No, he knew he had to sell Zidane to bring in Nedved, Thuram, and Buffon. And Juve don't do that anymore. They don't sell before they buy. They're first buying, and now after you bought the league, suddenly Higuain doesn't want to leave, and Matuidi and Khedira, and all of those dead weights just don't want to leave. So I would like to see Tonali. I hope Juve will get him. But it will be a problem because right now we've come a long way to become again an appealing club for the youngest talents in the world. But if we continue in the same path, like not rewarding great performances, keeping the dead weights, and trying to sell players like Dybala, then the next Dybala or the next De Ligt of the world wouldn't want to come to us, and we'll be stuck with the dead weights. Yeah. So we have to change our policy about it, because right now I think you are not managing it quite well. Like if you bring in a player like Tonali, promise him the minutes. Like who else would start in front of him?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. That's the one thing that kind of I found surprising with the whole Tonali thing and him, seemingly to be a lock to join Merda, is because it's a little congested there, and with us it isn't. So I feel like he'd have better opportunity to get that time and start off there. And I feel it's a move Juve should be pushing for. We should be pushing for Tonali.
It just the other doesn't thing make sense.
You're absolutely right when it comes to the policy. I mean, yeah, they were making moves, they were bringing guys in, and they didn't have any outgoings set up. And again, it falls in line with what we were discussing when we have to get rid of guys we theoretically shouldn't be, because to balance books, to make things right. And that's just backwards business, in my opinion. It should never come to that. You should never be getting rid of guys who have contributed that could be big for you in the future because you have to write the financials. To me, that's backwards.
There's no logic to it.
We should be looking to build off these guys. But again, they've done it to themselves. Management has done it to themselves by rewarding guys that shouldn't be getting these contract extensions, not keeping the team as fresh as they should. And to be honest, I mean, we've been on a run for so long that naturally, when you see teams that do that, um, you need to change it up. That backbone of the club needs to shift. Um,
Yeah.
a great Juventino on Twitter actually posted a comment that really made me think, and he said that in his mind, it's become clear the backbone of the club needs to be Italian because the Italians know what it means to play for Juve.
Yeah.
And I want to get your take on that because you know, I've talked about it a bit here and there on episodes about us losing that connection with the Azzurri. It's fading, it's dwindling down, you know. We still have our Italians on the club. You know, there's Chiellini, Bonucci, Buffon, and whatnot, but those guys are not going to be around too long. Then you have Rugani, Bernardeschi, and De Sciglio. But again, Bernardeschi's in the Azzurri and whatnot. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. How do you feel about that statement that this Juventino made?
Uh, it's correct. I can't argue with that statement. Italian players knows what it means to play for Juventus. Know as much as you get hate, you get love. And when you succeed with Juventus, the whole world sees you and knows how good you are. So, so yes, it's basically right. You can't argue that. And Juve aren't looking in that direction, and it's a shame because Italy, like I was going into the Euros with a lot of expectations and a lot of excitement because there's a young and up and coming Italian national team. There was a cycle who was finished with De Rossi and Marchisio and blah blah blah, and suddenly there's something to look forward to for years to come. And which of those players play for us?
Yeah,
There's scattered all around the Italian league. Like, how did we miss Zaniolo? He's a Juve fan. Like, they always posting his tweets from the Conte days. He's a Juve fan, and we missed that boat has sailed. And so now you've got Tonali, who plays for Brescia. He wouldn't be that expensive. He has no place at Inter. They already have Barella, Sensi, Brozovic, Vecino, Gagliardini. And he still chooses to go there. Then something in the appeal of young players to Juve has gone missing, and I don't know what it is, but I think Juve should start investing in them.
yeah,
And
and
I'm all for buying players from the Italian league because they know how it works. You just saw how the league, how long it took the league to integrate himself into the team, and how quickly it happened for Demiral, because he came from Sassuolo. He knows the Italian league. He knows how to play with the Italian strikers and the Italian defenses, and it's obvious. So I would go for young Italian
yeah,
players any day.
yeah, that's a yeah. I mean, it's a good point you bring up, but yeah, I mean, absolutely. I think we've been missing out on guys that we shouldn't be, you know, and it is concerning when people are picking your rivals over you. There's something going on that you're losing that appeal. And just like you touched on, I don't know what it is, other than the fact that maybe they're just looking at it and not getting minutes, you know, and not having that faith, not investing in them, truly investing in them, not just making them a part of your team, but I think they feel they would just be a bargaining chip at some point if they joined Juve. You know, I think we're starting to set that precedence based on, again, what we were talking about before, the way we choose to do business, right? And
Yeah,
when people want to get fired up at Mino Raiola for saying those words that young guys just go to Juventus, but they don't get any time, you know, and things like that.
mm-hmm.
He's not wrong in saying that. Like, that's the thing
Yeah,
is, like, you know, people want to get fired up about it because we love Juve and you don't want anybody speaking, you know, any kind of ill words towards them and whatnot. But he's not wrong in saying that. That's essentially what we've
Yeah.
done. We've never had the youth and actually really invested in them and brought them up and really groomed them. We've kept them on the bench. We've kept them on the side, like they get their minutes here and there. There's been a few here and there that we've tried, but have we really been fair to them? Like even Bernardeschi. Bernardeschi's been all over the place positionally, never any kind of stability. And this goes back to early podcasts that I've done. And I've always said, I always questioned it early on, and I just said, would this guy not benefit from just being left alone in one position? Like, master this position, make it your own, like, just focus here. But he was going all over the place. He was used as this utility guy, right? And
Yeah.
it may be due to the fact that he's incredibly athletic. He's got great athleticism, and he could be seen physically as being that utility guy, but mentally and positionally and whatnot, I only see him as a winger. Like that's the only way I could see Bernardeschi. And we don't.
Just look at Pellegrini. Pellegrini is a great example for every young Italian player who wants to come to Juve. There is no reason. There was no reason of loaning him out to Cagliari, but we did, and now it came back to bite us in the ass.
Yeah.
And every young Italian player would look at him and say, "Okay, I don't want to be a bargaining chip." And you can go even further back with Mandragora, who plays
Yeah.
for Udinese. He was a player that we wanted to see play, and yeah, I don't know how many seasons it's been that he plays for Udinese and not for us. And he might have been a good player, he might not, but we didn't even give him a good chance to prove himself. So I hope they will change that type of policy and the way they act with young Italian players. And I know Italian teams don't want to sell to Juve, and I don't want Juve to become the Bayern Munich of Italy, where all the young players go to Juve and all the other clubs, and every young players know that he's going to end up at Juve at some point. I like the competition. This season is much more interesting to me than the seasons that we won in March.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, because every game is important, and I want to watch every game, and I will do everything I can to watch every game. So it's good, but Juve need to think about, and it's good for the Italian team as well, for the national team, because every time a team won the World Cup, the core of their players came from the same club. If you look at Spain, if you look at Germany, if you look at Italy of 2006, Brazil is a bit different, but it's important for all of Italy that the best Italian players would play for Juve.
Yeah. No, we need to. Yeah, and I mean, even when we get back, like you tie in that nationally, and we spoke to a little earlier, Juve needs to freshen up their core, right, and just
Yeah.
solidify that backbone. But yeah, you're absolutely right. Yeah, it just comes down to management. When all this uproar was happening this past week, after the Coppa Italia loss in the final, I put it in my episode with Mustafa. We touched on it. It has everybody's hands on it.
Yeah.
Where we're at, managements, players, coaches. It's got everybody's hands all over it. We just need to right the ship. It's going to take a bit of time. I just hope, exactly how you put it earlier in this segment, I hope the management truly does see it and that they make the right moves and the right investments and whatnot. But I definitely think a shift younger would be what Juve needs to do. And we need to start looking at ourselves in the mirror if guys are choosing our rivals over us. You need to start changing that perception and whatnot.
Yeah, and I think we have a part to play in this too. We the fans, because I do feel like a part of that club. I've been supporting it for, I don't know, more than 20 years, and everyone is to blame, including the fans. Okay, so I'm not the type of fan that writes directly to players and blames them, but you can't bash players all season long and still expect them to be world class. You just have to understand that Juve has a mediocre midfield at the moment. So don't expect them to be world class. Don't say that they're shit and then ask them to play like like they're the best players in the world. And when your expectations are high, then you mostly get disappointed. But when you don't expect them, that's when they surprise you the most.
Yeah.
So we have to take a part of the blame for the way that Juve looks, because players addressed that in the past. De Ligt and Bonucci talked about the social media abuse that they get for performing badly. And we might think that it doesn't affect them, but it is. It does. And so we have to tone down a bit and support our club no matter what, no matter how it looks. If we survived the years between 2006 to 2010, then right now it feels like we're bitching about stuff that we have a bit of luxuries, and we're bitching about them. Like, look at
bashing anybody, player or not, on social media is just unfortunately, something in the world we have to deal with now, which is unfortunate and terrible. I think, that would be really, really tough to be a player and have to deal with that aspect, that element. But, it's part of being a professional now in the modern day, right? Back in the day, it would be a little bit different because and you still have that aspect, which was the media, the direct media in your face with microphones, asking you these questions, prying and plugging away, trying to get, the info from back there. Now it's just a whole nother element because now you have social media and guys like take it way over the top and are actually like just sending abusive comments like directly to you, tagging you or whatnot. I saw one just this morning with Douglas Costa, and somebody had put something very derogatory and direct to him, and then he responded with something, I think a derogatory remark about the person's sister or whatnot. So it just shows you this ugly side of things, right? That unfortunately they have to deal with, and I could see being very, very, very hard. But you'd have to, if it affects you to that point, because everybody's different. Some people can shrug it off and it doesn't affect them, but other people it sticks with them, and it's hard for them to separate that. That's up to them. That's up to them because unfortunately it has become a part of the job. And whether we agree with it or not, which all of us are going to disagree with it because it's terrible to do that. And why would you abuse these people? That's like me walking into somebody's job and saying, oh, you are absolute dog shit at whatever it is they're doing. Just be like, oh, you're absolutely dog shit. You are a piece of shit. And just like attacking somebody. You don't walk into someone's workplace and do that. And essentially these people are doing the same over the media, and I'll never understand it. But it's a good point you make, just about his fans. And I think we touched on it earlier, just saying we need to look at things realistically and logically as a whole when it comes to even the transition with Sarri and whatnot, and just look at this big picture. And I think the season still has to play out, and then we can gauge at the end and see where we're at and truly rank it, and see where we are. But we haven't been the fairest to Sarri as a club because management hasn't provided what they should have in many of our minds, right?
Yeah. And I believe, we still need to remember that some of those players are really young. In spite of De Ligt being as big as he is, and he's got great charisma and stuff, but he's still a 20-year-old kid. Okay, so Ronaldo is a 35-year-old man who knows how to deal with criticism, but those young players need to get more patience, a bit more patience. And look at Atalanta right now. Most fans wouldn't even can tell you their starting 11. And when Gasperini started, I don't know if anyone remembers that, but when he started, he lost his first 4 matches. And in the 5th match, they told him that if he wouldn't win it, he'd be sacked. And 4 years later, look at Atalanta now. It's been a project, and the patience has paid off.
Yeah.
And today's football, there's no patience.
Yeah.
The player is good for the league just landed, thrown into the mix against Napoli. One bad game, bam, he's a flop.
Yeah.
And it came from our fans. That's what bothers me. Like, give the guy a chance. He's a
Yeah.
kid. It's a new country. It's everything that comes with it. So
I think
I'm
again,
patient.
yeah, and I think again, what I was alluding to earlier on, very early in this podcast, was it's you lose that because that success has just overcome that patience. You know,
Yeah,
it's essentially just strangled that patience because it's become the norm and the
yeah,
expectation, whereas anything less is has just become unacceptable, and we can't treat it that way. We have to look at it, you know, realistically and logically as to where we're at and what we're doing and trying to transition, and especially not just transition coaches, but he's trying to adapt to a whole new philosophy, a whole new mentality, style of play. And we have guys where that previous style has just been embedded into them. And that's the hardest thing to change, you know? It,
yeah,
you know, you could teach the tactics, you could teach where you want to go with the ball when up, but you know, come certain minutes of a match, undergoing a little pressure where they're usually probably taught to lock down, tighten up. He wants them to be on the throttle and continue to go. And it's hard to change that out of your frame of mind sometimes, right? And I said that would be Sari's biggest struggle is changing that
yeah,
philosophy and mentality. We'll see what
yeah, and
comes. There's still a lot going on, a lot
yeah.
left. But yeah, go ahead, Omer.
You have to remember that all teams in Serie A would give everything to win one of the Scudettos we have won.
Yeah,
So we need to, it's not that you can't treat it like it's the norm. You have to appreciate what the club has achieved up until now. And we want them to continue achieving those great things. So that requires patience and we need to wait because look what happened to Milan and Inter, how much money they invested, how many coaches went through there, how many
yeah,
number nines, and the lack of patience just cost them everything.
yeah,
Everything. So you know that no number nine that Milan has bought in the last 5 years has lasted more than half a season.
yeah, yeah. It's crazy.
Not one of them. Higuain, Torres, Piontek, I don't remember, Andres Silva, they all came and left after 6 months
Yeah,
because they didn't provide what fans expected them to provide. So we need to be a bit more patient and hopefully the management will see what we see and
yeah.
act accordingly.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Well, so that's all we can do as fans is you know, hope for the
Yep.
best, hope that they can sort it out and right the ship, and time will tell. We'll be getting into a very interesting mercado this season, and again, we have a bit of a benefit that the Champions League will be played after all the Serie A matches, so hopefully Sarri can gain some steam. Let's see what happens with the Serie A race, which is still a fantastic one, and let's see what happens before we really dig in and you know,
Yeah,
um, get that fired up or whatnot. Let's wait and see what develops here.
of
But
course.
before we wrap up, we just want to talk. I know we want to touch on we. This has just been an ongoing thing where we talk about management and everything like that, but some changes and whatnot. Now we have Juventus being removed from the logo. We have the new kits coming out, and you know what are your thoughts on those new kits and just Juve and the brand style marketing?
Uh, Look, we don't have these types of what the other clubs have, the other big clubs in Europe like PSG and Manchester City, like those big oil guys from the Middle East who can just provide a club with billions of dollars whenever they want to. So I get that that's what we need to do in order to still compete and bring in the best players that we can and still be appealing to fans around the world. So it's kind of okay. I've touched on it before in an earlier podcast that I don't really care what the team wears when they go out. It's nice to buy the shirts. I like seeing which what are the shirts for the new season, but it doesn't reflect on anything, on how the team will look on the field. It's like a bonus. And I like the new shirts. I wanted to get your take on it because I know you're big on the whole kit.
Yeah.
So I wanted to know what you thought. I like the shirts. I think it's a cool shirt. The first kit, not the third, this ugly orange shit that
Yeah. I like it. I like the home kit. I like the away kit too. I think the away
which
kit in a more electric blue, like the one that we saw in '96, I think would
yeah,
be fantastic. But I like those two. The orange one I don't like whatsoever. It's too much, but that's fine. They want to get crazy with the third. That's fine. I'm happy to have the stripes back. They're
yeah,
a little bit alternated and whatnot, but I like it. I like the gold accents. Um, the last leak I saw had the Jeep logo in black and white, which I thought was a little bit off. I thought I liked it with the gold that matched the emblems and the
really.
logo, but now they've got it in white and black, and I'm not sure if that's what we're going to end up seeing. But I would have liked it all gold. I really like that original leak that had the Jeep in gold as well. But no,
Really?
it's a it's nice to get back to the stripes. You know, that's
Yeah,
all.
I actually prefer the black one because look at teams who play with gold. It doesn't come off good with the lighting inside the stadium. You can't see it.
Oh yeah,
So I prefer the black. I thought it was okay. And at the end we're Juve, we're black and white.
yeah. It'd be
So
interesting to see how the name set and numbers look on the back, if they're going to go black or if they're going to go gold as well. It'll be interesting to
yeah,
see. But overall, I like them. You're absolutely right. It has no bearing over what happens on the pitch or whatnot, but it's just it's nice for fans. But a lot of them just you know we look into it, and I mean even this one, for example. I mean, naturally I picked this one because I knew we would touch on kits and whatnot, but this is like the wildest thing for Juve. Like you
yeah.
just literally have gotten rid of the stripes. It's just half and half. I mean, I as a
Do
collector,
you
of
do you
course,
think it would have looked better without the pink stripe in the middle?
I think the pink stripe down the middle actually saves it a bit. I think it would have just really made.
Really?
I think it's just a nice little contrast in between them and whatnot. But ultimately, I don't know. This jersey, it's not even that it has grown on me. It just like,
Yeah,
I think it's just like you're used to it now that it's like whatever.
yeah,
The original shock is what did it. That is just like we're
yeah.
actually gonna remove our stripes completely. I
It's
understand the
actually
con. I understand the concept that when the team stands together, like black, white, black, white, black, white, like they have become the stripes is what Adidas, selling point was or whatnot. And their theory,
yeah,
their creative or whatnot. But I mean, it's tough when you see a club that's making management choices that are dictated on the market, and it's all brand this, brand that. And as a fan, when you start to lose something, even something that you say is so insignificant when it comes to what they actually do on the pitch or whatnot, but it's losing that connection to something that you fell in love with. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Like that's
yeah. I can
essentially
get
what it
that.
is. Like you always see Juve as the stripes. Like it's just like we are, black and white stripes. Like that's Juve. And when you start to lose something you have that attachment to, it's hard, right? And
Yeah,
everybody reacts to change differently. You have the
yeah,
people that just take it in stride. It is what it is. I understand that they're good. You have the people that are a little on the fence, but they're okay. They'll come. And then you have the people that just hate it and they just fight it and they resist change and whatnot. And this is not something I think Juve should have even done, even if you're trying to market or whatever. There's people that say this is nice as streetwear, like casual wear with the half and half. I don't even necessarily agree with that. I just,
yeah,
I'm a kit collector. I get them. I'll do it. But if I walk down the street, if I walk somewhere, I would never have looked at this and said, that's Juve. You know what I
yeah,
mean?
yeah,
But it's losing that connection that you have with your club. That was so symbolic, and that's why these new ones, I think everybody's just happy that we get the stripes back, and we're gonna
Yeah.
look like Juve again.
And I actually don't like any half and half shirt. I don't think it's a good. It doesn't matter if it's Juve or not. I just don't think it looks good. I like the stripes on every kit I've ever seen. But do you believe it should have been a poll? Like, why Juve won't just post a poll of I don't know, 3 types of home kits, and according to what the fans vote, this will be the home kit instead of because if you have gone and asked one fan in the street about that type of shirt,
Yeah.
would have told you straight out no.
Well, that was the thing with Socios.com. Like with Socios coming in and using these tokens and having fans votes, I said we should be voting on the kits. Have
Yeah.
fun with it. We
At
have
the end of the
so
day, we
many,
are the ones who spend money on them.
yeah, and we have so many talented graphic designers out there making these amazing concept kits. Why
Yeah.
have a competition where, hey, create the next Juve kit? Fans take it to vote, and we can have some of the most stunning designs. Like you watch these posts and they're incredible. So I would
Yeah.
like something like that happen.
Actually, it happened. It happened not to Juve, but to one team who took some editors from Twitter design of a kit. I don't remember, someone from Germany.
Wow.
And the design was from someone from my country, but it was to a team in Germany, and they ended up taking it.
That's pretty cool. See, that's the kind of stuff I'd like to see. I'm all for that interactive, feeling and whatnot, and that inclusivity from not just being able to be fans, but be able to contribute and have that further that connection with the club. Because, we all know about what was happened with the Curva before all the stuff was going down. And this is just nice little tokens that ultimately don't really affect the team. If anything, it'll help the revenue because now fans are a part of it. So you have that connection, you know?
Yeah.
Little things like that. But yeah, we're gonna it's awesome touching on that with you. We're gonna wrap up. I just want to play a little game, finish up. Got the idea from my good friend Joe Cappuccino, and we talk about players, and I'm going to put forth some players' names to you, and I just want you to describe them in one word. You can use 2 or 3 if you have to, but just the first word that comes to you when I mention the player. All
Okay,
right?
I need to mention that English is not my native language, so I'll try,
That's fine.
the best I can.
Okay. So start off with Gianluca Zambrotta.
Disappointing.
Nedved.
Legend.
Tacchinardi.
Workhorse.
Antonio Conte.
Oh, that's a tough one. Wow. Conte. How will I describe him? Wow, actually, I have no words in my language to describe how I'm feeling about him. And let's call him. Wow, I have no word to describe Conte. I have so much mixed feelings about him that.
What if you narrowed it down to what if you narrowed it down to just when he was a player?
Then he's a leader. I think is the best word. Oh no, an example. Okay. An example. Everyone who comes to you.
Okay, that's good. That's good. Trezeguet.
Let's call him a big moments player, big game player.
Okay. Montero.
Ooh. Montero. Let's call him the unflinching.
Okay. Buffon.
Oh, I already used legend for Nedved, so myth.
Nice. And then, of course, Del Piero.
I'll use the word everything. Del Piero is everything that is Juve.
That's awesome, man. That's fantastic.
Yeah,
Thanks for playing that little game. I like it. I like
yeah,
it.
it's a cool game.
Yeah, it's good. It's awesome. Thank you so much for being a guest. It's always a pleasure having you on, Omer. Um,
It's always a pleasure being here. I like it so much. Can't get enough of your podcast, and keep up the good work. You're doing something great, really.
Thank you, my friend. I really appreciate the kind words. To all Juventini, thank you for tuning in. And by all means, reach out to me on Twitter if you want to be a guest on a post-match podcast. And I have a lot of Juventini because the matches are full for the remainder of the season. But even if you just want to discuss something, something comes, you got some topics you want to get off your chest or whatnot, I am always free for some pop-up podcasts as well. This whole podcast has always been about all the Juventini all around the world. I've said it since day one. I wanted this to just be a platform for all of us to share our opinions and views around Juve, and I meant it. And thank you so much, everybody, for all the support and everyone who's been reaching out. I love it, and let's keep it going strong. And we'll be back with another guest, a first timer after our match on Friday versus Lecce, where hopefully we continue to win and continue to push forward in Serie A. It'll be interesting what will happen at left back. So let's wait and see. As always, until then, Forza Juve, fino alla fine. Ciao.
Forza Juve.